So we've got the possibility of a deal with Iran, although I have no idea who we're making a deal with. I mean, I have no idea at all. And then you've got the Supreme Court where we're arguing mail-in ballots. So, just the fate of humanity or the fate of democracy in the balance. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. Let the games begin.
Some of us, think about the legislative history and what Congress's intent was when we're interpreting the statute. I don't recall, and maybe we have, but I'm just, curious about this really heavy reliance on the 19th century understanding of the word election day, especially when we have a more recent understanding that has been implemented and Congress hasn't said anything about it.
I would say the 19th century evidence of meaning is the best evidence of the original public meaning of the statutes at the time they were adopted, 1845.
And you're saying that governs. We have to interpret election day, notwithstanding that Congress may have wanted states to experiment, that states have experimented and done other things. We are bound, you say, by exactly what election day people thought it meant at the time these statutes were enacted.
Well, if election day doesn't mean election day, then what in the world does election day mean, Ketanji Brown Jackson? I mean, if it doesn't mean election day, the day of the election, what does it mean? Tony Katz Today. Good to be here. Guys, good to see you. I don't know. This weekend seemed to take forever. This is the case regarding mail-in ballots arriving late. This is serious stuff. You know by now, at least for me, I believe election day should be a 24-hour period. It should be a full 24-hour period. There should be no early voting whatsoever. It should also be, we should take it seriously and make it a holiday, which is to say there is no excuse not to vote on election day. Let us end the possibilities for fraud. Let us certainly end the madness of willy-nilly mail-in balloting. And let us end the idea that a ballot outside of military or true absenteeism that arrives after the cutoff should be counted. What a nonsense, irrational, and wholly violent opinion. Just madness. This is that case. All 50 states require ballots to be cast or postmarked on or before Election Day. Now, I don't even like the idea that it's postmarked Election Day because it shows up later. But one could argue they voted on the day. All right, let's count that. Let's count that. There are 14 states that have a grace period. What do you mean a grace period? What the bloody heck is a receiving and counting regular ballots from a day to several weeks after the election? The only reason to allow something to happen several weeks after an election is to encourage the opportunity for fraud. The end. We're insane. We are out of our mind to think this. But this is the case in front of us. Now, again, I'm willing to concede if it's postmarked on the day of Election Day. I don't actually like it. I think the votes have to be in so they can be counted on Election Day. This is the case. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, Elena Kagan, they were just speaking, but Brown Jackson, who can't stop talking, thinks that the definition, or at least the way I interpreted her, if the definition of what Election Day is from the 1900s, you think that's good enough? And the answer is in the 1900s, or she's saying the 1900s. Gosh, 19th century, I think she was saying. They at least understood the difference between a man and a woman, so maybe they still had it right. Here she is in her own words as I pick up as these oral arguments are actually happening as we speak.
Original public meaning, and of course, Congress was very concerned when it passed these statutes, 1844 or 1845 and 1872, about the exact thing that Mississippi's, or almost the exact thing that Mississippi would allow, which is staggered ballot receipt deadlines.
Thank you, Counsel. Justice Thomas, Justice Alito, Justice Sotomayor.
Tell me what
the act is that you think has to be done by election day by the official? Received or accepted?
Received. All ballots have to be received and the ballot box has to close on election day.
The ballot box has to
Yeah, the
close.
proverbial
So
ballot box.
what do we do, and I know you did this, and I am a little upset, not a little, a lot upset by many of the statements in your brief, quoting historical sources out of context. But the Payne's treatise on the law of elections to public officers, you claim, had a traditional rule was that the legal votes duly offered at the polls, but not actually deposited in the ballot box, cannot be counted. But I looked to that treatise and it says in some of the states, that is the rule, but that in others, and also for the U.S. House of Representatives, the rule was the opposite. As Payne wrote, it was in 1888 an established rule of the House of Representatives of the United States that a vote duly offered and unlawfully rejected, so it wasn't accepted, at the polls, will be counted in a contest, even if not accepted by officials on election day. And we have another source you cite.
We'll get to that source in a second. This all stems from a case in Mississippi, or a story in Mississippi, which allows a 5-day grace period that allows mail-in ballots postmarked by election day to received and counted. This is the law that's under the review, being challenged not only by the RNC, the Republican National Committee, also the Libertarian Party of Mississippi. They argue that federal law mandates ballots be received by election day, and that allowing post-election receipts violates the single federal election day. My argument would be we don't have a single federal election day, which is the whole damn problem. But they're making the argument that even if a guy like I were to say, okay, it's postmarked by election day, so it should count, they're saying, no. That's not how we do this. If election day, the day we count everything, is this day, this Tuesday, this whatever day, well, then that's the day we count. We don't count anything afterwards. Now, having reviewed this for all of 5 minutes, I'm with them. Even if you postmark it on election day, where I originally said, well, you can at least give it a couple days to get to you. No, your job is to get it in before then. You're voting on election day, or better yet, we're counting on election day. We're not counting for days after. Now, I know what you're saying, Tony. Part of the damn problem in America is we're always counting for day after. Every other country, millions of votes, they can count in 3 hours. We take 2 weeks because our system, as we have allowed it to be abused, I mean abused, is built on the opportunity for engaging in fraud. We don't have to debate with lesser minds about this. We know this to be true, and we have to do everything in our power to stop it from happening. So this case, pretty important. And I would be I am very curious, right? One quick posting over there at the AP. The court's conservative justices appear mostly skeptical of Mississippi's defense of its 5-day grace period. Hugely important. This is a hugely important case that isn't going to get, I mean, today it doesn't seem to be getting much coverage at all because, well, everything is Trump made a deal with Iran. What do you mean Trump made a deal with Iran? With who? Who in the world did President Trump make a deal with? I like deals. But the way you hear the president say it, oh, yeah. Oh, we'll have peace in our time. No, he's not going full Neville Chamberlain. But if you allow the regime to stay, you're only begging for a problem. I mean, a huge one. I will share with you what is going on between the U.S. and Iran, and how is it even possible, considering we don't even know who the Iranians have to negotiate with. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz today. That behind me is a mountain of paperwork I have to do later. I didn't even realize it was out there. I did not realize. Yeah, there's a bottle of bourbon behind it. That's how I get through all the paperwork. Yeah, respect. What's it doing? There we go. Talk to me. What's going on? What's everybody doing? Let me check the comments right here. Yeah, I'm not sure when the Tripoli is there. This is the amphibious warship heading to Karg Island, where Iran moves its oil through. But you're hearing about, we're working on a deal and everything's going to be all right. And I have many questions. I have a large amount of questions that require answering. And I don't know if I'm going to get the answers. I do not know. And this situation of this Air Canada jet at LaGuardia, because they keep discussing how the jet hit the fire truck. It sounds like the fire truck hit the jet. This is horrifying. And the imagery is crazed. I mean, the whole jet, the whole, here, this is, let me see if I can get this up for you real quick. Look at this. Look at that. It's just ripped apart. It's crazy. Wait, did the fire truck have the clearance? Because the way you heard the recording from the black box, or at least the recording that they shared, didn't sound like that. It sounded like the plane was telling the truck, we're here. So I'm not telling you you're wrong. I would just like any data that shows me that, a link. Maybe I missed it as I'm getting ready for other things. Meanwhile, we're back to the show.
Elon Musk, if these talks go well, and you reach, I don't think he's going to be a Newsmax. If these talks go well and you reach a ceasefire agreement with Iran, do you believe Israel would abide by that agreement? I think Israel will be very happy with what we have. We just spoke to Israel a little while ago. I think they'll be very happy. This will be peace for Israel, long-term peace, guaranteed peace. If this happens, and I can't guarantee it, but I think it's going to. My life is a deal. That's all I do is deals my whole life. I think this is something that's going to happen. And why wouldn't it happen? So tomorrow morning, sometime, their time, we were expected to blow up their largest electric generating plants that cost over $10 billion to build. It's a very good one. There was no dearth of money. And one shot, it's gone. It collapses. Why would they want that? So they called. I didn't call. They called. They want to make a deal. And we are very willing to make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. And it's got to be no more wars, no more nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons anymore. They're agreeing to that. Any of that stuff, there's no deal.
Now, this sent the market into super happy times. Everyone's like, my goodness, this is all going to be just great. This is going to be over. I have a question. And my question, Mr. President, is we have destroyed their leadership. We have killed everybody in charge. Who are we negotiating with? Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Guys, good to be here. Good to be with you. This was the president today. Now, he's supposed to be speaking later. He's going to be it's Memphis, right, Producer Landon? Right? We know that he had already sent ICE agents there. It's going to be a safety conversation. Fine. You've got ICE agents in airports. We should be looking for updates, Producer Landon, on how things are going there. These 4-hour, 5-hour, 6-hour lines that have been taking place because Democrats won't fund the Department of Homeland Security like they should. They want the pain gone from themselves to fund TSA, but the truth is many Democrats are now on the record saying the pain is great. It gives us leverage. They don't care if you go on spring break. They don't care if you get to see Mima. They don't care. They're very clear about this. I don't know who the president is talking about here. I don't know how it's possible to come to some kind of deal on Iran. How does that work? Including, well, if there's a deal, we're going to go in and take the enriched uranium ourselves. Well, now we're boots on the ground in Iran. And this is a moment where everyone has to take a breath and a beat. Because even I, who do this every day, no different than you in terms of an observer, but every now and then I have to remind myself, Tony, in a propaganda war, what gets said versus what gets done are two very, very different things. So let's start with where all of this started. This started with the president. His name is Donald Trump. You have seen pictures. It started with him saying, if Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Oh my God. President Donald J. Trump. So this was on the 21st of March. And it was at like 7:44 p.m. So if we take a look at Monday, that would be 48 hours later, 7:44 p.m. Eastern time. That would be the moment. Next thing you know, boom. We're blowing stuff up like it's our job. So that was the post. Now, you could take a post like that in a lot of different ways, I guess, and say, well, he's putting a deadline and, he's taking this seriously. He's going to take out the power and it's going to lead to other problems with power, because then the Iranians responded and they said, well, we'll take out other power grids and other nations because we'll consider them acceptable targets. And I said at the time, and you'll see it in the show sheet that comes out today, man, am I not interested in ultimatums. I don't want to hear any of this tough guy crap at all. Here's the ultimatum. Surrender or die. That's it. That's the whole deal. That's what we do. Surrender or die. Trump doesn't do it the way I do it. And I ain't going to lie, it annoys me. But the thing that has to be remembered, and I've said this before about this administration, if you had joined me at Trump 1 year and 1 month later, I said this directly from the stage. First, what a pleasure it is in the Pentagon to have adults back in charge. And number two, how good they are at the misdirection is amazing. Amazing. They say one thing, they do another thing. They lead you in that direction, they go in another direction. Is that what we are seeing here? President Trump writing today, I am pleased to report. Now, he didn't put pleased. He has a couple spelling mistakes here. He spells which, W-I-T-C-H instead of W-H-I-C-H. Leave it be. I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week, I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Now, there is a massive difference between what is said and what is done. So if we go back to the day this war started, that's Saturday, you will note that earlier in that week prior, Thursday, it had come out that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, was scheduled to be in Israel the following week. And people said, well, if the Secretary of State's going to be in Israel, well, then certainly there's not going to be a war. They're not going to start dropping bombs while the Secretary of State is in Israel. I mean, that's a completely insane thing to do. But the question before us has to have been, is the Secretary of State in Israel? What did it matter what was said? What matters what was, right? Saying that he'd be there, well, that's not the same as him being there. So you create all this consternation and all of this, well, he can't do this way, he can't do that way. What was he actually going to do? When was he actually going to do it? They've been outrageously good at this. Take a look at this letter less than 48 hours afterwards. And was the plan to heighten tensions to show how he had less intentions? You see, when I talk, there's people are responding. Well, okay. If we're playing a game, I won't get worked up about nothing. Except, of course, the idea that if any part of the regime remains, we failed. I will say it directly to him. If any part of the regime remains, anybody connected to the Ayatollah, any repression of those people, if any ability to engage terrorism remains, we failed. That's my marker. But let's go back to this statement he makes about conversations, productive conversations with the country of Iran. What the hell is the country of Iran? There's no administration. There is no government. Who's the leader? Were you talking with the son, the new supreme leader? If not, who were you talking to? Who the hell we make a deal with? Why would anybody trust it or believe it? But it made the markets go up 900 points. So, how about this? Everybody take a breath. We're at war, and I don't think anything has changed. And tomorrow, we might see a whole new thing. This is Tony Katz today. And yes, was that you, Pete, who said we could see the Marines going out to Carg Island today? Absolutely. Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. Do me two favors right now. Make sure you hit like on this live video and then tell your friends to join us because hanging out is a good thing. There is a picture of one of the players from Miami. We're talking about basketball, NCAA, right? March Madness. They lose to Purdue. And this dude in uniform is in line at a concession stand where they were playing. Just grabbing himself a bite to eat after the game. That is a crazy photo. Oh, yes. That dude. So there's a picture of a fan of Florida. You know, Florida lost a last second kind of conversation. And they were, they won the championship last year and now they're out. There's this Florida fan. And the guy is the most jacked human being. Listen, I don't know much about steroids, but I assume if they took on human form, it would be that guy. Listen, that might be all natural. What do I know? I am a neophyte at the taking of any level of performance enhancing drug. This is all natural. I am all natural, right? I perform an all natural way. So it's crazy. If you haven't seen the photos, guy's huge. There we go. So the Iranians do have a structure of civilization, but who are you negotiating with that can guarantee these things? Israel's going to love this deal. What are you talking about? The only way the Iranians love a deal is if there's no more terrorism, if there's no more Ayatollah, if there's no more Islamic regime. That's that. So, again, I say, who are we negotiating with? And yes, Honey Nut Cheerios, Breakfast of Champions. Honey Nut Cheerios, an elite cereal. For sure. Could not agree more. All right, let me see what else I've got going on right here. Let's see. Where are my clips? Let me get to this. Oh, yeah. I'm just going to say for the record, we have a serious problem in education. I will get to that story coming up in a moment. President Trump scheduled to speak from Memphis. And Tony Tutt, that's kind, man. Thank you. I appreciate that quite a bit. But you didn't put a comment to it. You just got to put a comment to it. Let me share the daylights out of that. He did make, no, but what regime? This is my point. If the regime's been destroyed, who'd you make a deal with? I want this to be over, but I want the regime gone. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. You may have heard me mention before. I know a lot of people are going to be discussing Iran every which way right now, but I think there are other things that we have to discuss. And you know, I have stated before that we have a serious problem in America with education. Tony Katz today, good to be here. Good to be with you. The seeding of education and this belief that academia is actually good for us. Now it's a larger scale conversation about whether or not the very concept of academia is something that we should try and salvage. Education, yes, but if I were to define academia, I think I might define that differently. If I go with dictionary definition, the scientific and cultural community engaged in higher education and research taken as a whole, well, then that's different than education. Because our issue is not with learning, it's with those who do the teaching. Because those who do the teaching seem to want to make what they feel be the subject. And I am only interested in doctors who can pass organic chemistry. I don't care that you got close. I care that you understand the contraindications. I care that you can recognize that the makeup of drug X and the makeup of drug Y will lead to a dead patient. Maybe don't give them drug X and drug Y. I don't care that your heart was in the right place. I don't care how you feel. I care that you know the difference. So we can eliminate those possibilities to the best of our ability. But education, or I should say academia, has become a place where pseudo-intellectualism reigns supreme. And this, I think, is Colorado State University, where there's a professor. No, this might be California State University. Jamie O'Quinn. Jamie O'Quinn is a feminist scholar activist. Done. I'm out. Can't have my money. She is a feminist scholar activist whose research examines how sexual inequalities are reproduced through social institutions. That is not at all anything that is worthy of study. Sociology degree at the University of California, Santa Cruz, sexuality study master's at San Francisco State University, and then a doctorate in sociology from the University of Texas at Austin. I mean, that's something else. Well, here she is, this professor, and she wants you to know some very, very, very important things.
And the idea that I have to get up here and say that trans women are women, and that's what I have to use my time to do, is absurd. Shame on you. Shame on all of you. And shame on you for using lesbian politics as a front for your transphobia, because this lesbian has had plenty of girlfriends with penises.
Now, perhaps, just maybe, I'm thinking in retrospect that I probably, if we were friends, should have given you a little warning to what was about to happen. I'm thinking maybe I'm a bad guy. And I would like to apologize to all of you. Also, I would state to you that there are reasons to stop sending your kid to college. That's a reason. You think that woman should be allowed to teach your kid you hate your kid. Now, for the record, I don't want to agree to disagree. I want you to know that if you're letting that woman who thinks that a woman can have a penis teach your kids you hate your kids, you're a terrible parent. You're terrible. I don't know how else I'm supposed to say this. It's hateful. You're supposed to say to your kid, no. You're not even supposed to send your kid to the school. What is this? Cal State University? Where is this? Cal State University, San Bernardino. Nope. You don't send your kids to Cal State University, San Bernardino. You let Cal State University, San Bernardino die on the vine. And then tell her to go get a job at Dairy Queen. No, wait. I apologize. I'm sorry, Dairy Queen. You are fantastic. She is not good enough for you. You stay classy, Dairy Queen. Somebody get me a Blizzard. For the love of God. I allegedly have friends who listen to the show. None of them bring me a Blizzard. Need some Oreo in there. My wife bought sugar-free Oreos. And I know there's a difference. I know I'm supposed to be able to taste the difference. And the difference is that in an Oreo, you know it has a cream filling. And in a sugar-free Oreo, you need all the milk because the dryness will suck all the moisture right out of your body. And you will end up like the guy in Seven. It's really bad. It's really bad. I didn't mean to get sidetracked there. I'd like to apologize. Back to the story at hand. You're good people, Dairy Queen. Cookies and cream sounds great. If someone could bring me one, fantastic. This is the problem with academia. Because that statement can be made. This woman really said this.
Shame on you. Shame on all of you. And shame on you for using lesbian politics as a front for your transphobia, because this lesbian has had plenty of girlfriends with penises.
No, you haven't. You've never had a girlfriend with a penis. Never once. It never happened. It's a lie. Now, you could have played dress up. You could have played pretend. You could do that all you want. but it never happened. You lie. One of the hardest problems we have is that how does one keep up with all of the madness in all of the places? Because everywhere you turn, everywhere you move, these people are crazy on every level. Doesn't matter the subject. You're fighting everything, everywhere, all the time. And how do you keep up with that? When I say you don't send your kids to that school, I mean it. I'm not saying it because, well, that's just, it's the radio thing to say. I'm saying you tell them no. It's your money. The answer is no. I don't care if your friends go there. The answer is no. I love you more. And the answer is no, and that's what you do. Got to make it stop. Got to make it stop. Parents need to be the people who make it stop. How do you stop your kids from getting indoctrinated? By actually stopping them. That's how it's done. You stop them. You say no. Now, this is a lot easier if you start from a basis of you're their parent and not their friend. See, if you tried to be your kid's friend their whole life, you can't actually stop them because a friend can't do that. But you're the parent. A parent is not a friend. I am not my kid's friend. I am their father. And it is a very different job. I like my job, sometimes a thankless job, but I am not their friend. I don't want to be my kid's best friend. I want my kids to have a best friend or friends in general. I want to be their father. Be the only person in their life who never, ever, ever lies to them. Be the only person in their life who will always answer them honestly and doesn't judge them. Discusses the pros and the cons. Do you want my opinion? I'll give it to you after that. You are grown-ups. Make the call and then work with what happens. But if you're not willing to tell your kid, no, this is my money and it's not going to that, I'm not filling your head with that crap because no girlfriend ever had a penis. If you're not willing to say that, you're not a good parent. If you say to me, who the hell am I to tell you about being a parent? I'm a rational human being making a declaration, and if people don't want to listen to the show, screw them. Don't care. If you send your kid to a school where the professor says, my girlfriends have penises, that's a bad school. That's a bad teacher. You shouldn't send your kid there. And if you do, you're a lousy crap parent. Now all you have to do is stop. Do you know how easy it is not to be a lousy crap parent? Allow me to help. You start by not being a lousy crap parent. You stop doing the lousy crap thing. You stop doing it. You start changing that. Oh yeah, it'll be weird because your kid may not be used to it. But whoever said it was too late to change? Not me, not you, not the world. No, it's not. It's not too late. You got to at least try. And you have to recognize that academia is not education. Academia is broken. Education is necessary. There's a difference. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. C-SPAN has been garbage on the audio as of late. Let me see if I can get it here. That's all. He's just being nuts. So there it is. So I will get to that in a little bit. I will start the Trump thing at in the second hour. We'll cover this right now. All right. Yes, I am in the movie Disciples. Is it Of the Moonlight or In the Moonlight? Which is a Brett Varble film. I actually play a leftist commentator. I'm in the beginning of the film. It was something else. I don't know if this is the start of my film career. The truth is, I would like to do some more of it. I do enjoy it. It's fun. I don't know if I'll have my star on the Walk of Fame, but I'm also okay with that because I think all the stars on the Walk of Fame right now are covered with human feces. I certainly don't need that in my life. I'm going to pass that right up. No, thank you. When are we back? 30 seconds. Excellent. Excellent. All right, coming back right now.
As the days continue, this is going to continue to get worse. We are certainly grateful, of course, for President Trump, Director Lyons, and Borders Our Homeland for the ICE support. And they're going to be conducting non-specialized security support, manning the exit lanes, crowd management, line control. So we're incredibly grateful, again, for their support to help alleviate the challenges that our officers are facing, that the traveling population is facing. But we're hopeful, but we're going to continue to focus on the mission. And if this drags on, it's going to continue to get worse.
He's discussing, that's Adam Stahl. He's the acting deputy TSA administrator. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. And he is discussing ICE assisting TSA in getting these lines handled because of the government shutdown, because of what it is that Democrats have done. So ICE is now assisting. Now, this is a very, very, I think, smart move. The thing that I have not been able to answer is, does this to anyone rehabilitate ICE's image? So if lines go from 4 hours to 42 minutes, which is still too long, but I'm trying to be reasonable here. And ICE is all about pleases and thank yous and have a nice day, and they approach things with a professionalism and a bit of a smile. Do people say, you know what, they did a great job? Do they feel better? Are they so calmed down? They're like, hey, I went through security. ICE was there. It was fine. Does it rehabilitate an image? I don't have an answer. I am curious what that might look like. I wonder how upset this made the political left. You want to defund Homeland Security. You want to put children at risk. You want to make sure kids can't see grandma for spring break or go down to Daytona Beach or wherever it is and find love and then find it again the next night, then find it again the next night, and then twice in the afternoon after that, then once again the night after that, and then have to go see their doctor. If you want to stop kids from doing that, well, then, my God, you are animals. Democrats have not given up the ghost on this. They think that this is a winner-winner position. They're thrilled with the pain that they're causing. I don't know yet if this is a winning move for Trump. It can't be a bad move. Take me from a 4-hour line to a 41-minute line, and people will say, good. I'm glad they're taking this seriously. Question is, are Republicans smart enough to run on it? And the answer to that is the Republicans, probably not. Now, I saw this too, Mike, that ICE is already finding people in the country illegally at the airports. I listen, if you're in the country illegally, you're in the country illegally. I have zero issue with you being arrested for this. No problem with it whatsoever. But can I say, and this may sound like I'm not focused on the right things, but I think I am. I would rather they were focused on moving the line through. You put ICE in to prevent the shutdown of airports, and you put ICE in as a PR move to say we're the ones getting things done for you, not these ridiculous Democrats. You don't cloud that image. You want exactly that. We serve you. Which is going to bring us to a statement from people like Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, who I like, regarding Trump and oil and prices. We will get into all of it. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. We've got more coming up. This is Tony Katz Today. So here's where we are at, in case you were curious. We have got the radio show in break right now. So we will be in break right now. That is the plan. Now I have, where was that? There it is. Is that right? There we go. Sorry, just had to get the new folder up. It's got all of our new break stuff in it. Some of the music stuff we're still working on because some of it is still copyrighted, and like we thought we handled that, and so we'll get these notifications from YouTube. You can't monetize this video. It's like, well, we did everything we were supposed to do. What are you giving us heartache? But their bots and other things see it a different way, so we gotta change the music around. So it goes. So hang loose, smoke them if you got them. We will be back in a little bit. I will have what President Trump said in Memphis. I mean, that he started early blows my mind. Blows my mind. First time ever, I think, that he started early. So I will have that for you coming up in a little bit. Make sure I've got everything, and I think I do. So hang loose, kick back, relax, and we will be right back. Welcome back, guys. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. You're in the right place. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Would be fantastic. Of course, TonyKatz.com has all of the good groovy stuff, and you can head on over there and check it out and be like, my gosh, where's this been all my life? So President Trump, is he still talking? Yeah. So I'm going to bring you it from the beginning. This president was in Memphis, or still in Memphis, I should say. And it is the Memphis Safe Task Force Roundtable going on. So hopefully it will all stay there, because when I was checking out the C-SPAN audio, it's human garbage. Absolutely the worst. So he's in this big, like, I don't know, he's like in a warehouse, it seems. Just big open air. I mean, he's inside, but it's just cacophonous. And so there's a lot of reverb, but this, I think the audio from Fox is pretty solid. I want to show the whole thing. I have clips, but I wanted to just share the whole thing. I'm going to do that. I'm doing that. That's what I'm doing. See, this says it's only 9:21. Okay, there it is. All right, we're coming back.
And that's why I'm here today. In fact, we were going to cancel because we have a couple of events going on, as you probably noticed. So they said, oh, we'll cancel Memphis. I said, we're not canceling Memphis for anything. We're not canceling. We're not going to cancel Memphis, but we do have some big things happening, and very positive, I have to say. So before getting to our important discussion this morning, let me provide a brief update on Operation Epic Fury, which is a very good name, as it turns out. That was a name. They showed me 20 names, sir. What name would you like? I didn't like any of them. And then I get toward the end, I said, you got to be kidding. What? Operation Epic Fury. I love that name.
I would prefer Operation Dead Ayatollah, New Regime, Let's Go Have Lunch. But that seems to have been too long for a T-shirt. Tony Katz Today. Guys, an absolute pleasure to be with you. That is President Trump. He is there in Memphis. You know, there has been a lot of movement in Memphis, like in Washington, D.C., to get the streets safer. So he is there to discuss what's going on. But, of course, he's not going to have a conversation without discussing the latest out of Iran and the possibility of a deal there. I just don't know how this deal is supposed to work, because I don't know who he's negotiating with. He put it out there. There have been good conversations regarding, quote, a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East, based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week. I've instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Well, just 2 days before this, he said, if I don't have a deal from the Iranians, I'm going to blow up all their crap. Power plants, everything. All gone. And then he puts out this. My question is, who is he negotiating with? The administration there, the regime, has been mostly killed. Is Mojbatan now speaking? That's the son. That's the son who's allegedly gay. I have no idea. And that was the reason why the Ayatollah didn't like him. He's more of a hardliner than his father. We've heard he's been disfigured. We've heard he's been incapacitated. That place is being run by the Ayatollah pen. It's like the auto pen, but for Ayatollahs. So who is running the scene here? That's the question. Who is in charge? And how are we negotiating with them? So let's take it now to President Trump speaking at this event.
And it's very appropriate for what's taken place, as you know, in Iran, because we knocked out their Navy, we knocked out their Air Force, we knocked out their anti-aircraft, we knocked out everything. And we did it with fury, actually. As I announced earlier, based on preliminary conversations between the United States and Iran over the past 2 days, I've directed the Department of War to temporarily postpone planned strikes against major energy and electricity targets in Iran. They have very, very big, new, actually, and very expensive, billions of dollars it costs to build them. One missile, one of our powerful ones, and it comes down to the ground like it was made out of dust. But to determine whether a broader agreement can be reached, we've had very good discussions, very, very good discussions. And you have to understand, I know my whole life has been a negotiation, but with Iran, we've been negotiating for a long time. And this time, they mean business. And it's only because of the great job that our military did is the reason they mean business. They want to settle, and we're going to get it done, I hope. So hopefully this will be possible, but no matter what, we'll ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. They would have had one if we allowed the Obama deal to stand. That was the Iran nuclear deal, they called it. They would have had one. Marsha 3. Well, I tell you what.
Well, we'll tell you what in a second. The Iran nuclear deal was never a worthy deal. The Iran nuclear deal never made any sense. The Iran nuclear deal was a spectacular, world-class mistake. The Iran nuclear deal was about allowing Iran to proceed and pretending like we were doing something. There's still a defense for it out there, which is kind of remarkable. There shouldn't be. It's maddening to think that there could be.
Martha, we would have nuclear weapons up there when, would you say, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 4 years ago? We would have been in a position that nobody wants to be in. We won't allow ourselves to be in that position. Over the past 3 weeks, the United States military and our partners have been decimating Iran's military capabilities with overwhelming firepower, skill, lethality, and force, and we're destroying their ballistic missiles and drones programs with launchers down by more than 90%. We're hitting their launchers at a level that nobody even thought of before, 90%. They can't launch them, and they don't have very many of them, because most of them have been annihilated. But we've annihilated their defense industrial base, eliminating their Navy. We had 158 ships are down. I said to my people, why didn't you capture the ship? They said, were they good or not? They said, they were great, sir. So why didn't you capture? We could have used them. They said, it's more fun to put them at the bottom of the sea. But they're not there anymore. So we eliminated their Navy, Pete, right? And that's gone. We eliminated their Air Force. We eliminated all of their air defense, everything. We eliminated everything there is to eliminate, and we eliminated them. We eliminated their leaders. We had the first set of leaders. They're gone. Then they met, 88 people met. And it's sad. I mean, it's sad they couldn't have made a deal. We could have made a deal with them a long time ago. Then the second set, 88 people met to pick a new leader. And they're now extinguished. And then they're meeting again, but now nobody wants to be the leader. It's one of the few political jobs that nobody wants anywhere in the world. Nobody wants it.
So who did you make a deal with? You understand, I'm not mad. I'll tell you the moment where I would lose my mind. If you tell me that a deal is made, that some connection to the Ayatollah remains in charge, and the IRGC still exists. Then I'll say, what the hell are we doing? 13 lives lost? For what? Oh, then there will be words. Absolutely. Trump knows what he's doing. If you're not going to ruin the regime, end the regime so it is ended for forever, then he didn't do the job. Once you decide you're going to go in, that's the goal. And everything else is remarkably stupid. Well, Tony, the goal was to end any ability for them to have a nuclear weapon. So we're okay with them still being able to engage in terrorism? Because, I'm told by the Tucker puppets and the so-called intellectuals that the Ayatollah had a fatwa against making nuclear weapons. That's what Joe Kent actually tried to say. This guy from counterterrorism who resigned because the Israelis are dragging us into war. A year or so when you were running for Congress, you were all about supporting the Israelis. Now all of a sudden you realize there's money in the other side. We see you, Joe Kent. Unimpressed. Oh, the service that you put to the country? Yeah, that was then. Someone very aptly said that Benedict Arnold was an American hero until he wasn't. Tucker Carlson was an incredibly important voice until he wasn't. Did you know that Lucille Ball used to be the queen of comedy? There was a time where a guy by the name of Andrew Dice Clay was selling out Madison Square Garden. Things change. Those people have changed. I don't mean Dice or the late Lucille Ball. I certainly do mean Tucker. For sure. In every single way. But these are the people who said this has got a country going after a nuclear weapon. It's ridiculous. And then they said this country can't send missiles anywhere. They can't send missiles a long distance. As a matter of fact, they've purposely curtailed their missiles so not to upset the world community. They fired at Diego Garcia. 2,500 miles away. It's basically a base that's controlled by the United States and the British. 2,500 miles away, and they fired missiles. One missile fell apart. Designing a missile that can handle that many miles of travel at that speed, at those heights, it's not easy to do. The other missile was shot down by a destroyer that was stationed at Diego Garcia. You tell me we had military assets ready to go just in case the Iranians did something? Maybe we knew something. Maybe we knew it was possible. But now the world knows it's possible, that they were trying to do this. So they can do this, 2,500 miles. I'm pretty sure that means they can reach nearly the whole of Europe. And next time you see the Europeans caterwauling or moaning or kvetching about Greenland, remember they go to bed every night thanking God America is here and praying that Trump gets his Greenland project. Oh, they'll be furious and they'll claim that they got him to do this and did that because, of course, they want to look good for their people. All politics are local. But they need the United States controlling some part of Greenland because they need Golden Dome. Golden Dome, like Israel's Iron Dome. That's Trump's next want. That's what Space Force is going to do. That's what all this is put together for. You have Greenland so you can keep tabs on China and Russia, not just their comings and goings in the Arctic, but also the travel of hypersonic weapons. Hypersonic missiles follow the curvature of the Earth as opposed to ballistic missiles, which move itself into the atmosphere and then back down, which means you have more time to see them. Not true with hypersonics. Following the curvature of the Earth, you have much less reaction time. So you need to be in the forward advanced places to be able to see the missile coming to then take it out. And if we're there, that means that the most of Europe, the majority of Europe, is going to be protected. Once again, by us. This time, they're going to pay into it. They better go to bed thanking the good Lord we're there. Those are the facts. All the facts. So when I hear President Trump say that he has negotiated a deal or is negotiating a deal, I do not know with whom, because in his own words, you just heard him. And yes, he's in a facility where the sound, the acoustics are horrifying. In his own words, he's negotiating, but I don't know with whom because there is no one to negotiate with. The objective is to set up the conditions for the people to take over. You don't trust me? Okay. This was the interview that Trey Yingst did with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trey Yingst is with Fox News. And what is it that the Prime Minister said? Here are the goals.
What does victory look like in this campaign?
Well, we've defined two clear goals. One is to break completely their nuclear program, break completely their missile program, break completely their capacity to produce the components for both of these programs. We're well on our way on achieving it. We've also set a goal of creating conditions for the Iranian people to overthrow this tyranny that has tormented them and made life miserable and is making life miserable for the entire world.
That whole idea of we're going to set up the conditions, Benjamin Netanyahu, it's regime change. Just say the words. We're all here. We're all smart. It's too cute by half. Not interested. It's regime change. I'm down with it. Just say the words. Now, he can't say the words, but as long as we all know what it is, as long as we all know what it is. Meanwhile, President Trump continues from Memphis.
It's a very dangerous job. My job is dangerous too, but their job is worse. In other words, we're systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America. They're not threatening us anymore. As Commander-in-Chief, it's my sacred responsibility to protect our country from all threats. For decades, Iran refused every opportunity to renounce its nuclear ambitions, and in recent months, its own negotiators bragged to our representatives about having enough material to make nuclear weapons. And that was supposed to deter me, but it didn't deter. It made me more anxious, and it just made it much more important. This mission that we're all on together was much more important, and we did it quicker. Iran's missile capabilities were also growing so fast that it would soon have become virtually impossible to stop them. Once they have a missile, once they have what they were building was incredible. And you got a little glimpse of it by the fact that when they came out, they started shooting all of their neighbors. Their neighbors weren't fighting with them. They were getting along okay with their neighbors. And I was surprised. Everybody was surprised. And it actually worked in reverse because their neighbors then turned against them. Now Iran has one more opportunity to end its threats to America and her allies, and we hope they take it. Either way, America and the entire world will soon be much safer.
Good. Again, I don't know who he's negotiating with, and I think that's a key question. But then again, all these statements could all just be subterfuge, all just be cloud cover. The USS Tripoli was heading to the area. More amphibious warships were heading to the area. This to take Karg Island. Are we going to find out it's taken? And if Karg Island is taken, what else could be taken? This Pentagon is very good at deception, and all warfare is deception. I can accept this. Question before us is, do we believe that there's any negotiation going on with some Iranian government? And I say no, which means other actions have got to be happening. Time will tell. We will watch. This is Tony Katz today. So there's some people who said they were going to do something and they did not do it, but they just told me they did it. And so that is pretty uncool. But I'll have to check this again. No problem at all. So what else? Yes, Brad, that is possible. And you've already seen that the Iranians are like, Donald Trump backed off. He's scared of us. Sure they are. Sure he is. The Dow was up 900 right now, up 600 is the Dow. NASDAQ is up 259. And there is now video footage of what happened at LaGuardia. It's freaking horrifying. I'm surprised they're showing it. I'm surprised they released it. And that plane looks like it's going a lot faster than 24 miles an hour. Let's see if they've got updates here. So the video from LaGuardia is so freaking horrifying. This is an accident that absolutely did not have to happen. It's there at the New York Post. I am going to not share it here. Oh, I know people will watch it just for the sake of watching it. Nah. So here's what went down. Tony Katz today, and I appreciate the chat room over on the YouTube feed, youtube.com/Tony Katz. Be sure to subscribe. Kind of breaking down part of this for me. So you have an Air Canada jet that hit basically a fire truck that was responding to an issue with another plane. So when you first hear the story, you're like, the truck is crossing a runway and the plane had landed from Montreal to LaGuardia there in New York and hits the truck. It gets deeper. Clearance was granted by air traffic control for what's called Truck 1 to cross the runway while they were responding to an emergency on the other side of the airport. This was a United Airlines flight with an odor on board. So the truck is given clearance to go. Truck 1 stopped before this runway and asked the tower for clearance to cross. They were making sure. They start crossing. The plane is letting this, or trying to let this truck know, or maybe it's air traffic control. Hey, there's a plane coming. There's a plane coming. Boom. Now, as the chat room is explaining it, the airline was ordered to stop. How do you stop the plane? This is my question. So it's the controller telling the truck to stop because they see the plane coming. The Air Canada plane was given clearance to land. Both pilots were killed. Everybody else on the plane survived. And that plane was ripped apart. It's an amazing sight. This is Tony Katz today. It is. It's just so nuts. It is nuts how the nose of that plane was just gone. But it's really rough. Yeah, sometimes I know people will play it and they'll get all the clicks. I don't know how that plane was supposed to stop. I have no idea. Get out of that. Let me go here. Boom. Get rid of that. Just putting some stuff together for what's coming next. Let's check that. Okay. Yes. What is Tucker talking about? It's a two-parter. It's a two-parter. I've got that for you. You have a very large show sheet today. There's that. I already did that. There it is. Okay, I'll have to start that when I can start that. And then there's this, and then there's that. All right, so I've got it. Excellent, Smithers. What am I missing? What should I be talking about today that I haven't? Why is Laura Loomer attacking the treasurer of Indiana? Daniel Elliott's the problem? Are you out of your minds? Sorry, I don't think this is in any way an issue whatsoever. I don't even think Daniel Elliott would consider himself. I'm sorry, this is a very local thing. It's just super weird that people have been sharing this with me. Anyway. Three more things, Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Guys, live streaming the YouTubes. You can check it out for yourself. Just go to youtube.com/Tony Katz, Twitter X, Tony Katz, Facebook, even though it stinks to high heaven. Tony Katz Radio. Check that out over there. In Connecticut, the Democrats who run Connecticut, and they have some pretty awful Democrats, and I'll get to Richard Blumenthal in just a moment. The Democrats have got some legislation, and this legislation says that if you are recycling and you're cashing in more than 1,000 cans or bottles a day, I don't know how long it takes to collect 1,000 cans or bottles, but neither here nor there. If you are cashing in more than 1,000 cans or bottles a day, you need an ID. I can't make that up. You know exactly what I'm going to say. You need an ID to recycle in Connecticut. But Connecticut senators, they don't think you need an ID to vote. Outside of pizza, I don't think Connecticut could do much right. And I live in Indiana. You want to talk about a messed up place. Honestly, it's kind of an awesome place. It does have some very screwy politics, and we have work to do. In Connecticut's far worse. You can actually do business in Indiana. You know what? There's not even a comparison. Come to the Midwest, leave Connecticut, long for the pizza, come live a better life. It's SB 299, introduced by Democratic leaders in the state legislature, passed by both chambers in late February, and signed by the governor, who's a Democrat, Ned Lamont, in March. Why is this important? The issue here is that they've had people from out of state take advantage of their higher return rate. They do a 10-cent return rate instead of, let's say, a 5-cent return rate. And it was causing the state to lose significant revenue. Hold on. So first you need an ID to recycle and not vote. And the reason you need an ID to recycle is because people who aren't from there, who aren't citizens, are taking advantage of you. I'm sorry. How does one respond to that? How does one respond to that without just being befuddled at how somebody could be that embarrassingly dopey? This is exactly why we want ID to vote, because people who don't live here cross the border and then make life more difficult and try and take advantage of us. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. Except well on brand for progressives. When they do it, it's the most important thing in the world. When you do it, how dare you do that? When you do it, we have to look into this. When they do it, why are you always looking at us? It's how they act. Meanwhile, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut, guy who lied about his Vietnam service, he's a liar. It's all Richard Blumenthal is. It's all he'll ever be, a weak liar. Learning that ICE agents would be in airports to help with security, to help TSA, he wrote on X, ICE agents at airports will only aggravate delays and lines, disrupting checks, interrogating travelers, dragging parents from children, detaining citizens, brutalizing families, shooting, and even killing. You think that ICE agents in airports are going to shoot and kill people? What kind of hyperbole nonsense is this? Well, this is from the liar, Richard Blumenthal. This is just fear-mongering at its absolute best, or is it worst? I guess that's really in the eye of the beholder. They're not shy about it. There's no shame here. Lie about ICE, lie about voter ID, and then in your own state, demand voter ID. That's something. That is something. But this all brings us to Tucker Carlson. Now, you're going to say to me, Tony, why are we talking about Tucker? I share with you. First, never mind how wrong he has been about Iran and how just obsessed regarding Israel he has been. I look at the people and say, you know, Israel dragged America into this war. And I recognize pathetic that it is, the nonsense of the argument. I'm not interested in people this very idea that it's all Israel all the time, and this is just madness. Embarrassing, pathetic, hateful madness, pseudo-intellectual at its best. Once you take a look at things, you go, oh, okay. By the way, you could still be opposed to funding for Israel or foreign aid, or of course, go right ahead. Israel dragged America into a fight with Iran is just dumb. And Tucker has been at the forefront of a just dumb argument. But the other day, he's being interviewed by someone at The Economist, and he said this.
We can no longer be the sole author of terms, of commerce, of anything. We have to share power.
With China?
Of course, because of their scale. We can.
Why in the world would I share power with China for a moment? What a ridiculous, ridiculous thing to say. What a foolish, silly thing to say. What exactly? Why is he bringing this up? Why is he discussing this? So I wanted to give you a little more context, because a lot of people are going to share that little clip and say, oh my gosh, he's on the side of the Chinese. Well, I think you need a little more context. I think that's very, very important. This is that little more context from a larger clip that was put out by, I believe, The Economist on TikTok.
The U.S. is not going to defend and cannot defend Taiwan. Now,
should not defend?
I don't know, should? I don't, that's not.
I mean, I'm asking you to lay out what you think are coherent.
I think we've reached the limits of our power, and power has limits. Like, that's another thing just to keep in mind. Power is not infinite. You can squander it. And we're in the process of doing that.
And what about Japan and South Korea?
Oh man, it's hard. I don't understand exactly how that's going to go at all from an American perspective. But like, in the end, big powers want to and get to control their regions. We have something called the Monroe Doctrine. This was another problem I had with Russia. It's like Russia, of course, is going to demand influence in Ukraine. And you could say, oh, it's a sovereign country. They can't have any influence there. Be real. A big power wants to control, hopefully in a non-brutal, enlightened way, but they want some influence over their neighbors. We can no longer be the sole author of terms, of commerce, of anything. We have to share power.
With China?
Of course, because of their scale. And so there's got to be a non-destructive way to do this.
So now we have a little bit more context. If you want to bring up the Monroe Doctrine, which is about thwarting European influence in the Western Hemisphere, and say that, as we have discussed here, there seems to be an agreement that we will have the Western Hemisphere and China will have their thing and Russia will have their thing. You could argue that. That is very different than the idea of shared power. Of course, it's a different thing than shared power. Even the concept of shared power is a leftist talking point. Any argument that starts with America on top isn't necessarily in our best interest is a broken argument. It is our only interest. There is no society that thrives with America not on top. Then when one discusses China, and remember, this is just a larger part of a larger interview, it needs to be noted that if China was sticking to China, you could argue that China gets to govern China. And if you wanted to argue that China had more sway because of size, dollars, etc., over parts of the Pacific Rim, you could make that argument. For example, Russia saying that they want to have control or at least a say in things going on in Ukraine, they can say that. But they took Georgia, they took Crimea, or they took Crimea, I should say, and then they're trying to take the eastern part of Ukraine by force. Do we want that to happen? Do the Europeans want that to happen? Is that what is meant by influence? The actual taking of the land? But let's now at least go back to this conversation about China. We have to share power with China. No, we don't. If you want China to have influence over China, I can fully understand that. The problem is that China has shown through its words, well, it's the Belt and Road Initiative or China 2025, all of these programs, that their interest is not China. Their interest is not Pacific Rim hegemony, but rather worldwide power. Why do you think they push the soybean trade in South America? Why do you think they've engaged in such investment in African nations? It is about worldwide power, and one cannot share power with an organization like the Communist Chinese Party that wants to destroy you. How possibly could anyone allegedly as smart as Tucker not make that clear observation and engage that understanding? That we're not talking about equal parties here or equal powers here. We're talking about very, very ugly regimes in Russia and in China, and their desire is not ours. And also, we should note that Tucker is thus proving that saying that Russia was never an expansionist power was a lie. It was always a lie. Of course, Putin has expansionist desires. We've been saying that on this show for 2 years now. Whatever Tucker has decided to do to himself, I cannot help him. He's on his own. But his argument, under the most simple of scrutiny, falls apart. The push against American strength and might is a really bad push and not America first at all. I'm Tony Katz. Welcome back. Tony Katz today. Guys, thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. Why are we talking about Iron Butterfly? What did I miss? What did I miss right there? Just going through the past comments. Now, the question is, was Tucker always this way? Did he turn? I can't answer that. I don't question what he was doing before, like the stuff at Fox. And I made this point before. Very many people can engage commentary about the news. Very few people can make it. And what Tucker was doing was being able to set the questions. That's rare air. And then he left Fox, and whether he was moving himself off the edge or whether Fox made a mistake, when we take a look at those first episodes he was doing on his own, and the millions and millions of views, we all said, look at this. Fox, what were you thinking? Did Fox actually know? And kept him on the plantation, meaning kept him in the lines, gave him the guardrails? I don't know, man. I was not friends with Tucker. I did years ago meet him once in his office. I showed him an idea. I said, what do you think? He thought it was interesting, and that was it. That was the totality of the conversation. But he was kind enough to meet with me. I had done his show twice. In the, what, it was in the 2020? Yeah, because Buttigieg was running. We were talking about Pete Buttigieg. This was the 2020 run-up. I hadn't really spoken to him since. When I say hadn't really, there was no communication. Was he always like this? I don't know. But whatever this is odd stuff. Odd, strange, weird stuff. So I wish I had a good answer. I really do.
And let me be very clear. Democrats will not surrender or cave in on the SAVE Act because it's everything but that. It is not securing our vote. It is voter suppression in its clearest form. And for women who are the highest vote, have the highest record of voting, it's a target on them because those who are married, most of them will not have the same last name on their birth certificate as on their driver's license. This is a ploy to suppress the vote of everyone, and especially women.
No, it's not, Representative Beatty. No, it is not. Joyce Beatty, or is it Beatty? Beatty? Out of Ohio. Me, I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz today. Man, do they not want voter ID? No how. Women's votes will be suppressed. People of color's votes will be suppressed. No, they won't. Now, President Trump has said, I'm not going to make a deal on DHS. I'm not going to make a deal on any of that funding. No. I'm not going to make any deal with Democrats until they pass the SAVE Act. They're going to shut it down. Nothing's happening. I won't sign anything until we pass the SAVE Act. I don't believe he's going to hold true to that, by the way. But he's not wrong in that we need to ensure the protection of the vote, those who are registered, making sure that they are them, and those who are voting. That is a must. That women are going to be stopped from voting is just silly. A little extra paperwork for everybody. Okay. And also, I'm fine with, and I did reach out to via X to Senator Mike Lee. Why don't we pay for IDs? No poll tax. I'm in for that too. This is Tony Katz today. I have not heard back from the good senator. I do want to get him on the air. We're working on that right now. Working on getting him off on the air. And thank you to Catherine, who just sent me a $1 off coupon for a Blizzard, because she heard me earlier saying, I want a Blizzard. But I didn't say I wanted a $1 off coupon. I said I wanted someone to bring me a Blizzard. That is the difference. The whole difference, and nothing but the difference. Guys, I appreciate you being here. All right, it's now doing it on its own. It's muting on its own. How is that happening? That's really weird. Because it happened earlier, like the mic muted and it did it on its own. It's like, I don't know. I do not know. Very, very, very weird. Why is that happening? I'll have to work on that. But I'm glad you guys are here. Can't thank you enough. The show continues at WIBC.com. We're here every Monday through Friday from noon to 2. We live stream it. The show continues from 2 to 3. So give that a listen, and don't forget to get the podcast. Get the dang podcast, if I could spell. Subscribe right now, and subscribe on YouTube. YouTube.com. That's YouTube.com/Tony Katz today. So make that happen. Appreciate you guys very, very much. I'll catch you tomorrow. Take care.